All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, coming to you from my bedroom again. We're doing a podcast finally for the week. We decided to go ahead and combine Mike's reflection of the week and actually do it together. We finally figured out how to do this thing through technology, using Skype and setting things up. So you have his big ugly mug up here on my TV here. And then obviously I'm sitting in my room talking to you guys. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off, Mike.
Well, first of all, I look bigger on the screen, but you have the epic beard. So
I do have the epic beard. I mean, I've been holding off going into the base just so I could have this thing, and it's working out perfectly because I'm not needed there right now. So I'm working from home.
Yeah, some of us don't go to work every day, so we can't grow our Viking vest. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, I'm doing it for the both of us, okay?
Yes, sir. Hey, everybody, listen, it's Sunday afternoon reflection time, and this is actually a lot more exciting than it has been. It's really cool to do this. It's always a privilege to work with Josh and everything we got going on here. Don't let him fool you. He's actually the one who's making all that production happen to see this. I'm just literally sitting here looking fat on a big screen. But hey, it's what is today? May 3rd?
Yep. I believe it's the 2nd. No, it's the 3rd. It's the 3rd.
By the way, I'm actually partaking in something very disgusting called dipping, but it's a raw interview, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. We are coming off of another week of this whole stay-at-home staycation thing we got going on, and I know that there's a lot of things that are starting to sort of show themselves with people. Governors are looking at how to reopen things little by little in a phased-out process. People are getting antsy. This week's been a little bit more challenging for a lot of people. You know, I was just telling Josh a little while ago, preliminarily to this interview, that I've even felt a little bit of pressure just because the weather's nicer. I know, Josh, I know you want to get out there and lift. I know you do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm chomping at the bit, man. I want to get together. I want to work out. I mean, that's what we do.
And let's face it, I mean, everybody can find motivation in their basements and their garages, and shit, we do it every day. But there are times where I don't care who the best of the best is, to not have the crew together with some cameras and some weights training together, it's not the easiest thing for motivated people to stay motivated. I can only imagine what's going on with some people that don't really have a lot of motivation and have to find it by themselves. Very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of fortunate to have the support system that you and I have. I mean, between you and I have Danielle, obviously. I have little Josh that works out with me. And then, the people that we have that can't be with us right now that are, across the world, that are chiming in and checking in with us every day and making sure that we're staying on top of things and making sure that we're doing what we're doing. You just can't beat the support system that you have, and I'm very fortunate to have that. I know you're very fortunate to have it. I mean, you talk about it all the time. I mean, and the prime example is what we witnessed yesterday with Thor. Look at all the people that were surrounding him on that day in order for him to do that. It not only was it him, but it was a team effort, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, I happen to watch Nick Strength and Power channel. You've seen that channel, right?
Yep.
He's interesting, and it's all over the strength world, but he's been doing a lot of stuff focusing on the strongman community right now because of this. And I watched a snippet today from him, which we can link if we get good enough, and we'll reach out to those guys and see if we can't hook up with them. But there was 435,000 people streaming the Road Fitness channel on YouTube yesterday. 435,000 or so people to watch a YouTube snippet live from Iceland. If that's not showing you the significance to a YouTube channel, and that's not just watching it on ESPN, I'm saying people physically going on their devices around the world, that was a massive, forget the lift was massive, of course, but to see that happen really got me I got excited yesterday, of course, you and I were talking as it happened, but then to know that so many people were watching that and supporting, buddy, you can't, I don't think you can top that, man. That's badass.
That is, that was a really awesome thing to see, especially, I know you and I were having a conversation about the bickering back and forth between Thor and Eddie Hall, and then the challenge got thrown out, at the end by Thor because of the 7-figure contract that him and Eddie both got offered to do that. But even still, like today, going through the Instagram, Eddie Hall just gave him a shout out for doing it. That's that's pretty awesome to see. I mean, you don't see that in too many sports where somebody bested you and you give them a shout out and say, "Hey, good on you. You know, that was awesome."
Yeah, I thought it was really sweet to watch. So you have somebody like Magnus for Magnuson coming. Obviously, he lives in Iceland, so
Yeah.
it's not going international. But he is by far the most premier judge and referee and strongman. And for him to be there and then watch Thor's dad on the scales, you know, checking things for all the calibration.
Yeah.
There was no way that was not an official attempt on a lift. It's not contextual in terms of a competition. There was no way that wasn't a official lift.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I had my doubts at first, and you and I had talked about that, and you know, we talk about competing and being in that competitive scene and having the crowd there. But I mean, I think they really went out of their way to make sure that everything was done correct and done to standard to make it official. So I think I'm going to have to renege my stance on where I felt, you know, that it should have been only, you know, it was an official record. I think it should be an official record. I think they took the time, they took the effort, and they did the research and had, you know, Magnus there as a professional judge who's been in strongman for as long as I could remember.
Four-time champion.
You know, I mean, who of all people would you want to be there and judge a deadlift?
Well, I mean, he's a Mount Rushmore. I mean, I know you can't really hone it all down to four guys, but he would definitely be on the Mount Rushmore. So you don't get much more legitimate. I guess going forward, the idea would be, because we obviously want to have those crowds and you want to have that environment you're in. Obviously, you want to have competitions, you know, that are amongst multiple competitors. But in places like this, I wonder going forward if you have the gumption, you have the sponsorship, you have the personal backing. Can people set gyms on their best day, or set records in gyms on their best day if it's properly done? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think this opened up a whole new realm for people to be able to do this. Look at the situation that we're in right now. I mean, we're not supposed to be in public places. You know, gyms are closed down right now. So
right.
for Thor, for example, he was training for an actual competition. They were all training for a competition. This hit, it got canceled, and he didn't want to let his training and his preparation go to waste, and he wanted to do this. So in that stance, I feel that it should have been done. He should have had the opportunity to do it. Now, there's people that are going to come on and try to best him. I mean, Ivan, we were talking about Ivan, the Russian. You know, he's going to go for it in September. He's already said he's going to go for it in September. Now, you know that's going to be televised if we're still in these circumstances that we're in. I mean, it's going to be the same thing, and it's going to be amazing to see. I mean, we've broken through the barrier. Eddie Hall in 2016 broke through the 500 kilogram barrier, and you said this yesterday when you were talking about it. You know, nobody thought that they were going to be able to do this. Now you have Eddie Hall in 2016 who did the 500 kilograms. Now we're in 2020, and Thor did 501. Could he have gone for 520 kilograms? I don't know if he could have hit the 520 kilograms. I mean, it looked a little rough for him on that 501 pool, but he did it. He did a hell of a lot better than what I would do. I can tell you that much right now. I mean, there was no way. I mean, I barely get 275 on a good day anymore. But
to watch him walk away from that, smiling and just barely out of breath. I guess one of the things that I feel like with that is, first of all, it's unprecedented. It's ridiculous in terms of the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, like with the 435,000 views on a single stream, and then you had about 100 other streams going with less people still watching. ESPN covers it on 1 and 2. That right there is going to draw in interest, and if people give an outcry of support for the fact that you could be stronger in your gym any given day, and if there's calibration, refereeing, and proper production, who's to say we couldn't see some more people setting records and not being looked at as cavemen doing this thing off the cuff? I feel like if that was all in place and people were having their best day on a Wednesday in the gym, If 1,104 pounds is the record and somebody pulls it like that officially at 1,106 pounds, they've beaten the record and they did it at home. So the question is, we talked about it before about the governing body and the different rulings. There is none in strong. Well, there is in strongman. There's multiple versions of it.
Yeah.
What is like going forward is saying, you know what? Yeah, you can have a competition or you can have a world record set in your own confines and comfort if the following parameters are met. I don't know how that looks in the future, but I know what it looks like when you saw more people watch that yesterday than watch all the other events they have through the year combined on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you said the key phrase right there, the governing body. I mean,
Yeah.
watching some of the YouTube channels, like I watch Brian Shaw, Nick Best, even Magnus. I mean, the governing body is going to be key to being able to do these type of things. You know what I mean? Because there has to be set standards in order for them to follow, to say, hey, okay, we know that the event got canceled. You were going to be pulling this world record. You know, you still get your shot. Here's the protocols, and here's everything that you're going to need to be laid out. I really think it's important that they sit down and they get together, those individuals, and come up with some type of governing body. I mean, we look at the competitions. We had the Arnold Classic, right? Giants Live, World's Strongest Man. I can't think of any other. I can't think of the other ones off the top of my head. But you got
World Ultimate Strongman was the one we just missed because of COVID.
Correct. So there you have four different strongman type of things that go on throughout the year, and there's no real set parameters on what each one has for their events. I mean, each time you look at a different one, there's different events for those venues.
Yeah.
So I think a governing body would be key to that. That way, you know, I enjoy watching all of the events. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it. You know, I think it's awesome to see, you know, the axle lift, you know, the Africa Stone, the Husafel Stone. I mean, you and I love that thing, but we're just nuts. So, I mean, I think they need to come up with something and have a set standard and have everybody encompassed. I think if they did that, I think the viewership would go up, because everybody has their own flavor that they like. But if you have something that's together, you know, kind of like the NFL or MLB, right? You know, you and I don't watch it that much, but, you know, they have a set standard rules, number of games, number of events, the things that they do with them, and that brings in people to want to watch it, you know. Not to mention the fact that the sport of strongman itself isn't widely publicized. You know, the people that are into it and know it are the people that go to the gyms, that work out, that, you know, like to do this type of thing. I think if they televised it more on ESPN or anything else, I think people would start to watch it, because you mentioned it before. It's like a circus. You know, people want to see it, even though it may look funny or it may look odd to them. They want to see it. You know, they want to see what this person can actually do, or if this person can make that lift. That's the key with what happened with Thor yesterday, is all of those people that were watching that thing live, they didn't know what the hell he was doing, but they wanted to see somebody lift an incredible amount of weight. You know?
Right. That's the thing. You're going to have, just like in any other sport, you go to a baseball game, you know, we both play baseball, and you got the kids that are playing baseball. It might not be something that you feel every day that you go out and throw a ball, but you know you're watching something really great when you're at a game and you see some incredible no-hitter or something like that. But you might not feel it in the way of, like, I don't do this every day. I feel like what happened yesterday, along with any other records that are set, you hit the nail on the head. There is obviously it's needed to be inspirational, it's needed, and the people that love the sport and know the sport and try to partake in it in some kind of a emulation of it, such as us and guys that we know, are going to dig it to a different level. But for everyone, there's always been this incredible, like, fascination with strength, and I feel like that's where the circus or the showman of a strongman can be so awe-inspiring to people, because somebody sees that and is like, I don't even know that. I've never seen anybody that even looks like that. I've never seen that many plates in a gym combined, and I know what's going on, but that can spark some kind of excitement for them, then that's done its job in that way. For the people that actually have pulled weight or carried weight or trucked around weight or whatever, it becomes even more exciting. So I feel like it's on some level gives something for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and that's what we talk about all the time with a project and everything. I mean, something for everybody, right? So I mean, I don't mean to shift gears off of the strawman thing, but you know, you gotta find a means to the end, or the means to your goal, and it may not be lifting, it may be running a marathon, it may be doing a 50-mile bike ride, or it may be finishing a quilt that has sat in your house that you've always wanted to do and always wanted to finish. It's just that you just have to, whatever you intend to do or whatever you intend to start, you need to finish, type of thing, and you need that encouragement, you need the support system for that. So I mean, the whole strongman thing, you and I can go back and forth on this thing for hours, because we are that passionate about the sport, and I think as time goes on and more events like what we just witnessed over the weekend get televised, I think you're going to see a bigger showing of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So
no problem. That when you did sort of switch a gear there, and I bring my trusty phone out because I'm learning to be modern and I'm taking notes here. Second out we want to talk about today with everybody is about goal setting. So the thing we just talked about, you kind of shifted. First and foremost, we had a talk a couple weeks back about the pillars of strength, and I don't think people fully, before we get into goals, personal goals and how to set them for others, I don't think people fully understand, like, when we talked about where we came from, we didn't go super in depth on that, and maybe it's not the place in a Sunday thought and a Sunday convo chit chat to do that, but I do want to say that I think there's a misnomer out there with people that think that, for example, I'll take myself, we only know ourselves the best, right? I feel like people think that it's just a naturally occurring thing to continue to find a way to be motivated. Well, I want to testify, because I didn't do it as much in our second podcast that we talked about a couple weeks ago. There are certain days, and please chime in when you want.
mm-hmm.
I'll tell you guys, like, there are days where I get lost in my thoughts, or I reflect on some things in my past that I'm not extremely proud of. So there are days where I can't always how do I say this? I have a challenge getting myself to get that level of motivation back up. And I feel like I have to say that because there's been some outpouring of excitement with what we're doing. And I want people to understand from my end that there are days that it is very difficult to find that motivation and to keep pressing on with a lot of things. Pressing on as in making productive moves. And I feel like people sometimes think on some level that maybe you and I are always in that mode to be fired up. I want people to realize, and I want you to chime in, I want people to realize there are days where that diesel engine is cold and it needs to be started, and it takes a long time to get those glow plugs sticking, and then it's almost like you have to fall back on what motivates you to become motivated. So don't think for 1 second that doing this stuff in this project is only for a place of wanting to fire everybody else up. This is a reinvestment in learning how to continue to stay motivated for ourselves as well. Do you want to have something to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple times. I mean, it's not even that long ago. I mean, you and I have talked about this all the time, is to find the motivation to do things, and for me, that really was when I was working the shift work, working the long hours, working the swing shifts, coming off of days and being off a day and then going right back into nights, and then you want to work out, you want to better yourself, and you want to try to keep going, but that motivation, that energy is just not there because you're so worn out, not only physically but mentally, because of that constant changing back and forth and trying to keep things going. And even now, like, there's some things where you and I talk about through work. I mean, work plays a lot into how your motivation is as well. I mean, you try to make you try to make strides to better things and to better yourself, but there's always going to be that roadblock or something that's going to slow you down, and that slowdown can be that motivation ender for you, and you need to try to find a way to get over that hurdle. And you and I are really good about that because we've known each other for so long. And Danielle, obviously, I mean, she's my wife. She knows when something's not right, and when something's not right. You're like, hey, dude, are you okay? And it's like, and you just have to fight through it. You have to keep going. You and I always are beaming positivity no matter what's going on around us, especially when we're at work. We know things get to us, but sometimes you put on that front, because you don't want people to see you at your worst. And especially now with this project, I mean, we're putting ourselves out there almost every day of the week, to the public. So you try to play that positive role. And for the most part, we're genuine about what we're doing and what we're talking about. But there are some days where you're just like, I'm just not feeling it right now. Maybe I'm not going to work out, or it's just things happen, and especially in the state that we're in right now, like you talked about. We're so cooped up, we can't go out, we can't do anything, we can't get together and do the things that we've wanted to do and plan to do with this project. So sometimes that can be the motivational killer right there for you, But again, I get that text message or that message on Messenger from you, and it's like, oh, okay, Mike's here, we're talking, we're good, So there, it's.
I want to make sure that people out there in TV land understand that just because we always seem to be motivational and we fire up and we want that because that's who we are, that's great. I don't want people to get the thought that we're robots and we're programmed. We actually have to work very hard, like everyone else. But I can say, because we have put a lot of work into doing this and things before to lead to this, you have a tool in your toolbox that you can sort of a light switch or maybe a check valve that you can start to self-assess, or have your tightest circle help you self-assess when you're not kicking on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
I just want people to realize that if they do the work and they follow along with that, they'll have bad days. We all do. I know I do. I know you do.
Yep.
But they'll build a tool in their toolbox that they can utilize to fall back on to restart their motivation. For us, it's lifting and training, but like you said, it could be anything, just as long as you have something that you're doing that takes you back into that mode of being a beast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you always have something to fall back on, and that's what you want to set yourself up with. You always want to have that fallback. There could be a day where you're just not feeling 100%. I mean, I've had those over the past couple days, but I have a means to fall back on, something to help me get re-energized and re-motivated to be able to press on and keep doing what we're doing. I mean, that's key, and I think that's that's the biggest problem with some people, that they just don't know how to find that fallback or that restart button, and they just get in that funk, and it goes downhill.
And on that's a better way of saying it. When they don't have that fallback, if somebody has a natural tendency to go in that darker place, the fallback is that check valve. And if they don't have it, where they made gains for 5 weeks, 5 months, they fall right back into that dark place, and those gains go away completely. That is the essence of what the motivation to do this is, to find a way to explain how you're going to have setbacks. Let's don't let that one step down go into falling down the entire flight of stairs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could have very well just given up on things, especially with the injury that I sustained with my eye, and previous to that, I mean, it just seemed like it was a snowball effect for injuries for me, and I had every opportunity in the world just to go into that dark place and just stay there, But this, being with this project and doing this project and working with you now, and the support system I have, has kind of kept me motivated and encouraged me to keep doing the things I'm doing, especially when the biggest kick of the balls for me was when I went and I purchased that bag, the brute force bag, the big one, right? And I'm like, all right, this thing's gonna come in and I'm gonna be able to use it and I'm gonna have fun with it. And you know, the weekend that it came in, my retina detached and I couldn't lift. You know? So I'm like, what the hell? So I had to sit down and I'm like, well, now what am I gonna do for 2 to 3 weeks? So that's when, you know, you and I started to collaborate a little bit more, and I got more and more involved with doing the video and the electronic side of the house and the social media side of the house and getting things energized that way, you know. So I mean, for me, the project is really it's really helped me come a long way and really helped me to motivate myself. But it's just, you know, it's a constant battle, it's a constant struggle every day to make sure that you're staying motivated and you're doing the right thing. And to correlate that with like lifting or whatever type of lifting you do, strongman, you know, bodybuilding, whatever, you know, there's going to be that time where your body just plateaus, right? So you're going to go through a week, 2, 3, whatever it may be, where you just can't get any more gains, right? You can't get any more wins, but you have to ride it out. You have to focus on what your end goal is, right? And you just need to keep going, because eventually your body, or change up your routine. You know, when I was working out and stuff like that and I couldn't get that 315 mark, I plateaued for the bench press. I wound up changing out my routine and doing something a little bit different just to work different muscles and stuff like that. And eventually I finally was able to do the 315 bench, you know. But in that sense, you have to stay motivated. You can't let that plateau take you to that dark place, you know. So it's just
a couple of shout outs on that. So one, I want to shout out to Mike Day. I hope he gets a chance to see this, and he's been very supportive. He was talking about, because he was one of the ones way back when this first kind of became an ember that was getting ready to light up and turn into hopefully a forest fire that we're into now. He was talking about how it's okay to have an off day, and it's okay to be not as motivated, or it's okay to be questioning things and reflecting and taking a step back. But if you're doing something that's goal oriented, and especially something like this, there's never a reason in your excuse pool for that day to say you're bored.
Yeah.
Because there's always something to do. You don't have to do anything, and you can own that. We've been there. We'll go there again. But to say, I don't have anything to do because I'm bored, that would tell me that that person who says that doesn't have something that they own in their heart themselves. That is something right there that when you say you're bored, that is a lot different than saying I'm not feeling my best or not feeling motivated. Because being bored means there is simply a lack of personally satisfying substance. And that word has always scared me or kind of maybe repelled me, because if you're just simply bored, that means that is the wake-up call to find something of your own to deal with. That's the first shout-out. The second one, I hope Dane Shoulders, also a good friend of ours, watches this as well. Watching him and his weight loss and cardiovascular journey, losing 60-some pounds over a few-month period, and be driven in direction to become this super lightweight, super spry, super fast, whole new version of himself. What that's got to take just to start that process and now be in the middle of it and be doing well every day, getting wins, has got to be amazing. I got to give him a shout out. I know we talked about that earlier.
Absolutely, man. I want to get him on here so bad, and just I want to listen to his story, you know, his journey through this, and you know, he is what we are looking for with this project, because not only did he set a goal for himself, but he just blew it out of the water. I mean, 65 pounds in a matter of a couple months is, to me, is awe-inspiring. That's like Thor doing the 501 deadlift. You know, it's an amazing thing to do. And weight loss is always a difficult thing for people to try to do. I mean, to get that motivation to actually, you know, one, figure out how you're going to do it, where you want to be, and two, find the motivation to keep doing what you're doing in order to keep that weight off. You know, you're talking about exercise, you're talking about eating well, you're talking about, you know, avoiding mental stress and other stressors that are involved with that.
Proper rest.
Proper rest. It's just an amazing thing, and you know, I give him a massive amount of kudos for what he's done, and like I said, I want to get him on this. You know, hopefully here sometime in the near future we can get him on here and we can actually talk to him and listen to his journey, because I think it's an amazing thing. You know, and then kudos to him too on posting on Facebook, you know, on a pretty regular basis. I mean, I love to see it. You know, I wish more people would do what he does and just post the things on there that inspire them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's amazing. And there's so many folks out there that are like that. There's also folks going the opposite direction right now, and not to bring it back to this particular problem we're in, but I've been trying to hammer this home, and I think the message is getting out there. I know you have too. If this is not the time of any time in any one of our particular lives to not be taking some time to think about what's going on for you, and then trying in this circular pattern of looking at in the pie, okay, what can I control? And what can I control? And a lot of times when you really start to assess things like finding a new workout plan, finding a new positive outlet, right now, more than ever, is the time to exploit that. And now may be the one time in your life that you have the time, literally like minutes and hours, to look at yourself in the mirror and really talk about, hey, this is what I've always really wanted to do, and I'm just not doing it. And I don't really have an excuse or a way to fall back on why. And I feel like if people can just take that initial step for themselves, that's what lights that match. And then next thing you know, you have somebody like a Dane or somebody else that then takes it to a whole different place and quite literally transforms their life somewhere else. That's kind of a victory. And that right there is not a crash diet. That is a changing of life.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle change, and I can attest to that. I mean, I've gone through many diets and tried different things, and you know, when you talk about going on a diet, one, you got to do the research, or you got to pay somebody to help you figure out what you want to do, and then two, you have to figure out what food you're going to eat. You know, you have to figure out the proper nutrients, the proteins, the macros, the calories, the carbs. You got to do all that stuff. And then you got to go to the store, and then you got to find it. You know, there are certain things that you just can't go to a grocery store and purchase. You have to go to a vitamin shop to purchase, like certain oils and stuff that you want to cook with. And if you're not smart about it, that can get pretty expensive. I know when I was doing the paleo diet, there was times when I was living on my own and I was spending $200 a week on food just to sustain that diet. So for people that have families like myself, you and Allison, you know, you have to kind of have an understanding of what you're doing with those diets. So that's why some people seek out having a professional dietitian or a personal trainer like I did. Because I don't know all of that. I mean, I'm not that big of an expert on it. I've done research on it. I have an understanding of how things work, and what I need for my caloric intake. But to sit down and say, okay, Mike, you're such and such weight. You want to get to this weight. You want to do this competition. This is the caloric intake that you need to do, and here's the food spread that you need to go through and do it. I don't have that education. I mean, that's an actual certification that people wind up getting to become dietitians and personal trainers.
And that's that when you get that village where you say, okay, you're working on empowerment coaching, and these guys are working on trying to work into a competition of sorts. You have to also realize that that's what it's all about. There's your doctor, there's your dietitian, there's your support mechanisms at home, there's your counselor when he has a mental issue. It's a team of people that get around these things. And it's not just for working out.
No.
It's a team for everyone in anything that they're interested in. So I think that, you know, that kind of sums up all that. It's just about finding a way to realize that we're human, but also finding a way through that humanity of our own selves to be able to question ourselves and actually look at yourself in the mirror and decide, I don't know how to do all these things myself, but I know I want to do something. How can I arm myself with the right people to help me get there?
Correct, yeah. And that's the other thing, too, is you have to be willing to step out and ask people to help. You know what I mean? That's one of the biggest challenges out there is people to step outside of their comfort zone and say, hey, look, this is what I want to do. Can you help me?
One thing on that, I find that, you can Google anything and you can pretty much do pretty well with that if you can muddle through it and learn. But, the problem, again, with this is not, in essence, just this. It's a lot of times the goal is to not only make a change to whatever you're trying to make a change, but also finding people, and when I say people, flesh and blood.
Yep.
They are better because they will sit with you and talk with you. You will develop new friendships and new support without even trying because you'll be around more people that are interested in things you are. A lot of folks are turning to this for their everything, and I understand that to a point, but eventually you have to say, I gotta stop looking at a box, and I gotta find a connection.
Yep.
And I think that's another reason people are very challenged because they can turn to this for everything, and it takes them away from what we're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, and I hate to say it, but that's just the society that we live in nowadays. It's so much easier for somebody to pick up the box and say, hey, Google, such and such, instead of actually going to somebody and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Because Google's not going to give you an opinion. Google's going to give you the facts. They're going to give you the information that you're looking for. They're not going to give you an opinion on what you should or shouldn't do.
And also, it's all trend-based. So if you're looking for right-wing politics or you're looking for left-wing politics, you're going to find more of that in your search results that back up what you already think you know because it's a trending device that sort of learns as to what you are interested in seeing.
Correct.
So that right in itself was going to end up giving you information that could be very useful, but could also be detrimental. So you have to almost go out there and start to kind of opinion dip with different people within the confines of what you're trying to do. I see runners forums all the time. I don't enjoy running. I know I don't enjoy it. So therefore, it's never going to be a passion, but I do enjoy the amount of forums that I see that the cyclists and the runners have.
Yeah.
They spend lots of time talking about different plateaus, injuries, different ways to beat this, or when you feel like this. These are powerful things. They have clubs that they get together, which is what we're trying to start now. We have a nice crew of guys. Some are across the world right now. Others are right here. Some are children. We have them all. They're interested in getting together because I feel like it makes them feel good just to be part of something with other humans. It's very important. Strengthen the human, not strengthen the black box.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's what it was like for me. I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago with our episode. That's what it was like with me being at the training center and working out with that group of people that I worked out with. Everybody was on board, was on the same page, and was passionate about the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's where it is. I mean, you have to have that social interaction with people and not through a box. It doesn't work. You can't just sit there. Like I know there's been several times where my wife and I have had arguments over the fact of the way we text something. You may text something to somebody and they take it a completely different way, and you're like, no, I didn't mean it that way. Whereas if you had that face-to-face interaction, you know exactly what is being told to you, and not doing it through a box.
Right. Yeah. It's a phenomenon of such positivity as well as a phenomenon of such negativity. And I don't really know. I'm not totally out there with my opinion on this, but I don't know what the next 10 years looks like. And if we're going to look back and say, we figured this thing out, or we're going to realize that it is not as powerful and not as positive as it can be detrimental, because some people don't have the ability to be moderate.
Yeah.
They're doing the accept, and they think themselves. So it's going to be that's a whole different episode there, but it's very interesting to know what social media and the electronic frontier is doing to our psyche and our bodies because of lack of movement a lot of times, what that's going to do detrimentally or positively over the next decade. Something to watch very close. Something to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I know for you and I though, we're gonna be on that physical end where we have to get out, we have to do stuff. I mean, that it's just, I think where you're gonna start to see that, and we won't get too far into this, I think is where it's gonna be with the younger generation, for that. But we'll save that. We'll save that for another podcast. I mean, that could be a whole other podcast just to talk about that.
We go all day on that. The other
Absolutely.
thing I wanted to cover Sunday thing to bring it back around to everybody
Yeah.
that we talk about is just some thoughts on this May 3rd Sunday, which I always say Sunday is a day of kind of chilling out, but it's also a day that starts the next week, and obviously it's been more of the same for a while with COVID-19. But what are your thoughts going forward with the weather getting warmer? What are you thinking about over on your end, and just in general about where we're at in terms of the stance of this, with the emergency management background and doing a lot of good research and knowing some science? What do you think? Where do you think we're at in terms of the reality versus what the news media said?
Well, I mean, I think, for one, I know the rules and stuff have changed for you being in Delaware. I know they've gotten a little bit more strict because it's starting to get a little bit more intense down in southern Delaware area. They were talking about opening up the parks here in New Jersey, and is it the right call? To me, I don't know. I mean, people have been outside, they've been walking, they've been doing everything, at a distance, right? So I think people are being very respectful of that. And myself and my wife, I mean, we're not going to go to the parks. We're not going to expose our kids to that. We're basically just going to stay to the confines of our home. We may run out and grab some things, but we will not take the kids with us. It's just not worth risking that. And knowing a little bit about bacteria and the way that it works, with the warmer months coming on, I think you're going to start to see it start to deteriorate. We've kind of plateaued right now in New Jersey, Delaware, southern Delaware, not so much. But I think as the warmer weather kicks in and starts to get a little bit hotter, you're going to see everything start to fade out. But we're not out of the woods. By no means are we out of the woods, because we have not found a vaccination for this thing. We haven't found a means to control it or kill it. So we're going to enjoy the summer months like we normally do. I think they're going to loosen everything up. We'll be able to go back to doing some social interactions like we want to and like we've talked about. But I think as fall starts to kick in and the colder weather starts to kick in, I think you're going to start to see it come back again. Unless they find a vaccine for this thing.
Yeah.
So
one of the things on that is that, and I don't understand this, and I don't like, I've told 1,000 times, the politics thing. It is what it is. I don't claim to get it in the middle of that because I don't claim to be knowledgeable enough. Nor do I want to be, because it's all posturing. One thing I don't understand, and I won't understand, and we could talk about it with 20 people that don't understand and 20 that do, and I just don't understand. Sometimes there seems to be like this backlash of people out here, and they're allowed to, but I just don't get it, is their civil liberties have been raped, or something like this. It's putting on a mask, a handkerchief. I tried to explain this last Sunday, I think it was. If it's that big of an issue, just to do that, even if it's just to follow along, I don't want to get into anything negative. I don't even want to be judgmental. Just the mindset of not just following along the basic civic mindedness of that for right now. Obviously, we are plateauing. Obviously, we have some glimpses of a good future. But I don't know what the need for simply calling, the government agencies of different states these tyrannical governments. I feel like anyone that's in a position, especially with emergency management background, sometimes you got to make a call. And when you make a call, you got to follow it through. And I think it's working. And I don't understand what the need for all that excess of negativity is. And I don't want to judge anybody for it. I just wish people could say, we have an issue. We're finally working as a crew here. We're getting some things done. It does suck right now, and we're going to see something on the horizon happen and get back to a better new normal. I don't think that's a bad approach to it. I don't know if you agree. I just don't understand.
No, I mean, I think that let's face it. I mean, you're always gonna have those people out there that are naysayers against whatever's going on. There's no way around it, right? So to say that they think that their civil liberties have been stripped from them, that's not really the case. I mean, I remember back when this thing first kicked off and first started, and we were still working, and we were still going back and forth, between states and going in and out. I stopped off at the Wawa to get a cup of coffee, and it was at the very beginning, and you couldn't get your own cup of coffee. Obviously, you had to have the attendant get the coffee for you. And a woman saw me in uniform, and she said to me, or she asked me, she said, "Is the military going to force us to stay at home?" Right there tells you everything about the misinformation or the lack of understanding of how things operate. You're always going to have that, right? So, I mean, it's troublesome. Your civil liberties haven't been stripped from you, okay? They're helping prevent the spread of a virus that they don't have a vaccine for and that they can't kill or cure, right? So they're trying to keep as minimal exposure to this thing as possible, and this is coming from an emergency manager background and somewhat of a scientific background here, okay? So the more people that interact, the more people that socialize and get close together. I equate it to kids playing in a nursery, right? You send your kids to preschool. I have little ones, so I send them to preschool, and little Johnny and little Sally are sitting there playing, and all of a sudden little Johnny sneezes on little Sally. Well, little Johnny had the flu. So now little Sally's going to have the flu, right? She starts to show signs and symptoms. It's the same thing, people. We're just preventing that exposure to whatever is out there. Okay, it's not a means to strip you from your civil liberties. We're trying to subdue this thing to give us time in order to make a vaccination to help everybody who's already been exposed to this. That's all it is.
And even if a mask, you hear all the science and the back and forth on that, or a handkerchief, or a bandana, or something you had at the house that you made yourself. Okay, so it's not an N95. It's nothing more than some shielding from droplets. But let's just talk about what else it does psychologically. You have it on, it keeps you properly thinking about, you know what? I see that guy with the mask on. Maybe I'm going to keep my distance. So if nothing else, it's just a psychological reminder to kind of keep that. And also the other thing it does, if you want to talk about, is I've done it a few times. I've done this. It just kind of keeps you from not putting your hand on your face, but actually putting your hand in your face in areas where you could be carrying it. And it just gives you one more layer of psychological as well as, physical protection. I see nothing wrong with that. I don't feel like this is any kind of a takeover. I just think some of that stuff's ridiculous. And I don't want to get mad at any of those people, and I don't want to be negative to them. I just would like some reconsidering of thought and then try to turn all that into a positive energy.
Yeah, I mean, eventually things are going to go back to normal. It's going to be a new normal because we've been in this for so long, and we realize that being in this, that there are ways for us to prevent exposures and to do things like that. And I think you're going to see people think a little bit more about their everyday lives and how they should treat their bodies and how they should be exposing themselves to other people. I don't think it's going to go back to what it used to be. I think you're going to see people more aware of their surroundings and have a better understanding of basically hygiene, right? I mean, because that's what this big thing is about, is the hygiene. That's what they're trying to enforce. And let's face it, when all this kicked off, they had no idea what this thing was, and every day is learning for the scientists and the medical staff, for them to understand the true nature of this beast. And that's what it is. It's a beast.
You're chasing it because you're trying to give the public reassurance. You're trying to give them the best answers. At the same time, this thing is doing this, and you're trying to figure out the pattern. I think maybe that's a great segue right now. I think that's a great way to conclude this little portion. I think we've eliminated everything now. I think we know what we need to do, and I think we have a good idea of what's on the horizon for all of us, especially in the world of vaccines and all the horizons. So, like I said, for a Sunday thought, maybe a wrap up on this, at least this piece.
Yeah.
Keep at it. Just keep at it. What else are we going to do? Keep at it and keep being civic minded. That's all there is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what else? What other choice do we have right now? Because I mean, me personally, I don't want to expose myself, and I damn sure don't want to expose my family to this. So why am I going to take the risk of going out in public without proper PPE?
100%.
So,
Okay, that's a lot covered. That's a big podcast right there. I did want to say, people are asking questions about what are you guys doing and what are your future plans outside of COVID-19 and with the restrictions. We have everything from a big get-together. We want to plan out to do a big seafood boil and a big potluck, bring what you want, get-together. We'll be talking to some of our closest friends that we know about that. We have some folks that are going to be all of a sudden appearing in our crew when they get back from some places that they're at right now doing some good things for the world. We have folks that are asking about future podcasting, which is amazingly awesome. We obviously have a million different types of workouts. We want to get the kayaks out there. We want to work out at the different parks. We want to get back to doing some of our impromptu running gun interviews with some of our folks that we don't know. We want to include our family. Yep. Josh, you got some plans on your side with workouts. What do you got on your end that you're mustering up for the big reuniting?
Well, I mean, obviously, we have all the gear that we've purchased over the past couple months. I mean, and I think once we can finally get out of this funk and get everybody together, there's going to be a myriad of medleys that we're going to be doing. I mean, we're basically going to be putting ourselves to the test, almost to the point of to death. I mean, that's just me personally. I know that's how you operate. I mean, we'll go at it as hard as we can. I know one thing for me too is I've been doing a lot of cage work, only just because of the rehabilitation. I don't want to stress my body too much and cause a re-injury of the eye or anything like that, but it's allowed me to focus a little bit more on the accessory side of the house, because obviously you've been doing the strongman thing a lot longer than I have. I've done powerlifting, but I haven't been training to the fullest, to where I'd be getting ready for a competition. So I know I've been slowly trying to get myself built back up to where you are. So hopefully when we do finally get together, I mean, I can keep up with you and do the weights that you're doing. Yeah, I mean, I want to get together. I want to do we talked about getting the harness, doing the truck pulls, doing that. Maybe if we, talk about like a refrigerator relay, like when we were talking about getting together as a group, I mean, it's going to be you guys are going to look at us when we film this stuff and you're going to be like, what are these circus freaks doing? But it's all in strongman tradition. I mean, if you have any desire to understand what we do, research the beginnings of strongman and where it came from and the objects that were done. All right. And then you'll understand why we do what we do. I mean, we can go to a gym. We have them, right? We have our cage. We have our weights. We can do standard stuff. But why would you want to do something like that when you can go and lift a refrigerator or go and lift a rock? That's the ultimate test right there. Lifting inanimate objects that aren't meant to be lifted. For me, that's what that is. That's what that passion comes from. And, I owe that to you for getting me started on this thing. I mean, I did the powerlifting thing. That was cool, lifting the weights and everything. But to go and try to lift a rock over my head, I thought I was going to kill myself, So the one thing I know that, you and I have talked about is I want to get out and I want to start bike riding, right? So I went out and purchased the bike. It's a nice bike. I look forward to using it. I have been using it here at home, but we're going around with the kids and bike riding, so you're not really getting that full cardio effect in while you're riding a bike. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you because you have so many trails in Delaware that I want to try out and I actually want to get involved in because, like you, I don't like to run. It's just not my thing. My body doesn't handle it too well. My back doesn't handle it too well with the back condition that I have, or I should say the inflammation issue I have. That's basically what it is. So I'm really excited about that. And then obviously, we talked about the get together. Once these guys get back, I mean, it's just going to be, it's going to be hit the ground running, and we're just going to be all over the place with this thing. And I know you and I have talked about possibly doing a trip, a group of us going down and doing some stuff. So just getting out and doing different venues and seeing different places and getting more exposure it's going to be exciting to see. But I mean, on this end of the podcasting, I mean, I'm really looking forward to being able to sit down with people and interview them. We do have people lined up. It's just, one, we had to get this whole Skype thing figured out, which I think we have. And two is getting out of this COVID-19. That way we can actually get out there and talk to people face to face, one-on-one, instead of doing it over the whole Skype. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is great, but you and I like to be face to face with people and talking to people and not interacting over a box.
Yeah, I think the question shouldn't be, so what are you guys planning? I think the better question to make it easier on us is, what are you not planning?
Yeah, right. I think that encompasses it all right there, because I mean, as this thing builds steam, I mean, we've been off to a pretty good start here. We started with Facebook, we started with Instagram, now we're doing YouTube channel, and we're doing these podcasts. We're going to try to do more frequent podcasts throughout the week. But I mean, as the weather gets nice, I can almost guarantee you that this thing is just going to take off like wildfire, especially knowing you, knowing me, and knowing the other guys that are going to be coming back. This thing is just going to be a freight train coming down the tracks, and you're either going to get on board and follow along, or you're going to just get run over. So, I mean, I am super stoked about this. This project is just been amazing so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this thing goes, buddy. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I'm super stoked.
Yeah, same way. I mean, it's as we said a while back when we kind of got this thing kicking into gear. I guess the best terminology is going to be, it's going to take on a life, and the entity of this is going to take on a life of its own. So, I know we've kind of repeated this, but one of the biggest parts of calling this a project, I equate it to one of my favorite bands, Alan Parsons, back in the 70s and 80s. Their whole philosophy, and check out some of their music, it's great, but it's interesting because their philosophy was never to have one set sound.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted their sound to start here and morph and go. I feel like this is a different version of that same type of flavor, where you have a basis for what you want to do with yourselves and your crew, but as you share that, and as you showcase that, and as you interact with that, we don't know that project can go in any direction. And it's so refreshing, especially coming from a very rigid military background where you're very much boom, boom, boom. That has its place, and also wears you thin, to be on this totally open journey with only a few parameters in place, it's foundational connective tissue structure, to watch that project take a life on its own. I think you actually said that first. It's happening that way, and it's happening that way right now. Just stay tuned, because when everybody gets ripped out of this staycation we're in and gets back together, the amount of swirling ideas that are out there, especially for the main players, is going to probably blow your mind. And if you don't get something out of it, you're probably not looking at it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this thing is an ever fluid beast, and my mind is always swirling about this. I know your mind is constantly swirling about this. So right now we're just kind of in a unique situation because of the staycation sense of mind that we're in. So we'll be uploading the workouts and stuff like that, obviously. And we're going to do more podcasts. We're going to try to get on board with that, especially now that we've overcome this battle here. I think this is what scared me the most, was trying to get this thing through the Skype up and running. But now I think that we have this on board. I think we're going to be in a little bit better situation. So the main thing, though, that I want to ask, like, the Strength in the Human Nation out there, the people that are following us, please start interacting with us, okay? Get on Facebook, put things up there. We don't care what it is, just as long as it's positive. And give us feedback. We want feedback. We want to know what's going on. I know Mike has been reached out by people, but I'm not seeing that. So the only time I know what's going on is when Mike gives me a call or sends me a text message saying, hey, this or this. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Instagram. Comment on the YouTube channel. We want to hear it. We want to see it. We want to know what's going on and what you think of how this thing is morphing. Because without you guys, the project would still probably continue for us, just because we enjoy this. We're passionate about what we're doing. But without you, we don't know what direction you want us to go in, or what direction you want to go in. And we want you to be a part of this, and we want you to show us your journey, set your goals, and publicize it for us. So one, we can follow your journey, and two, if you hit that plateau or you hit that unmotivational point, we can kick your ass in gear and say, keep going, you got this. I mean, that's what this is about. And then the last thing I'm going to say on this, I mean, we talked about the goal setting. I know I put a couple goals in mind for me that I'm working on right now that I covered 2 weeks ago. One more goal I'm going to put out there, and I talked to Mike about this earlier today, is I'm going to try to lose a little bit of weight. I want to be a little bit leaner, a little bit healthier. So right now I'm going to try to cut down to 210 pounds. So that journey starts right now, right here. What's that?
Where are you at right now, so we know that number? Not that it matters, but where are you at?
Right now, I'm fluctuating anywhere between 226 pounds and 230 pounds. So I'm setting myself up for, I don't want to say that I want to lose 70 pounds, because you got to start small, and then you wind up going big, because if you set big goals for yourself, you wind up letting yourself down, especially when you're dealing with weight loss. And I wish we could get Dane on here to talk about that, because he's lost 65 pounds, people. That's amazing. So I'm starting small. I'm right now, I weighed in this morning at 226 pounds. I want to be at 210. I have 16 pounds to go. Okay, that may not seem like a lot, but when you're dealing with the type of workouts and the type of exercising that we're doing, that requires a lot of caloric intake. So you have to balance the caloric intake with the right amount of food, or the proper foods to eat, in order to maintain that weight loss, on top of doing the cardio. So that's my goal to myself, is I want to be 210. Once I hit 210, I may want to go a little bit lighter. I don't know. We'll see where I'm at. But the goal starts today with that. So I want you guys to follow it. I want you guys to, if you want to try to lose weight, I want you to get on Facebook and set your goal on Facebook, and let's have I say let's do a competition. Let's do a Biggest Loser competition. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds good. I weighed in today I think I was 246 in shorts and a very, very light pair of sneakers. That's probably half. So I think the idea is that I've always kind of wanted to stay heavier with stuff, but as I'm getting older, even though I don't breathe heavy, I still never train. I feel like it's 5'8.5", maybe 5'9", the longest day I ever get when I'm standing up straight. It's not really about how you feel. It's more about how you might not know how you don't feel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like getting down maybe to like 220 and sticking around there, sort of like you're 210, and working in that, seeing the energy differences, seeing more explosive power, and potentially just losing some of this the extra fat we have on us is doable. It's realistic. It's not setting a goal that's ridiculous, and it's also going to allow plenty of horsepower and body weight to still do the stuff we're doing. So I don't feel like it's something that I'm going to do like give you the daily updates. I feel like little by little, watching that come off, but in a way that's not too shocking, would be the best approach, at least for me. I think
Absolutely. That's the healthiest way to do it. You don't really want to try to shock your body and lose that much weight. I mean, you look at people that have the bands done and stuff like that, and they lose all that weight, and the body just can't keep up, and it takes a while for the body to recover and to get used to that. So I think it's an attainable goal for us, and I really think that we should turn this into a Biggest Loser competition. And I don't know how many weeks you want to give this. Where do you want to go with this? We'll do some check-ins.
And see what after a month you figure it's what is it, May 3rd? You want to look at like somewhere in the first weekend of June, somewhere June 3rd or 5th, or somewhere there, and kind of like just talk about where the weight is, if it went up or down, and maybe talk about also how you're feeling about it physically and maybe mentally how you're feeling. I know one of the things that's huge with this project is being realistic about how we feel. I think a lot of guys that lift have a psychological disadvantage when they start to get smaller, because I think in their minds they don't look like what they think they do, and other people might vision them a lot different. I know that's been a problem for me. I'm not afraid to admit that. It's not about needing to be a big guy. It's more probably stems from some childhood stuff. I think a lot of folks have that in different ways. I think it happens even more so if you want to stay super skinny because they always think they're getting fat. So how about next month we do a little I don't know, catch me up on that, and we
Yeah.
kind of call each other out and ourselves out of where we're at.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And as always, I put the challenge out to the people in Strengthening Human too. This isn't only about us; it's about you guys as well. So if you guys want to join in the challenge, let us know on Facebook, let us know on Instagram, and then maybe over the next couple weeks or so, I can reach out to some of my people that are dietitians and personal trainers. Maybe we can get them on here and we can talk a little bit about dieting and nutrition and physical agility and stuff like that to kind of help people out that really don't know where to go or where to start with that.
That sounds like a great way to wrap this thing up, man. As always, it's not a pleasure, it's a privilege and a pleasure. For everybody out there, my last piece is basically stay in this thing, man. Don't be running out there and just going nuts again. Stay in this. Start to enjoy this beautiful weather. If you're at home, take advantage of it. Reflect, be well, and continue to do what you're doing. And also, like Josh said, to echo that in that chamber, reflect on what you're doing, but at the same time, please use some of that echo and that reflection to reach out to us. And if you want to put your own stuff up here, or you want to showcase something that you've made, or food that you're cooking, or things that you're doing that are just off the hook awesome right now, we want that. Please be well, please stay safe, and please keep interacting because we care about you a lot.
Yeah, like I say on Facebook and Instagram, stay safe, stay strong, people, and as always, Viking power.